We good?
Good.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Edison Now podcast. And it's actually, we have a little upgrade from the previous couple podcasts. And before we get started with Councilman Brescher, I want to make it an introduction to a new partner I'm bringing on the Edison Now podcast. As we continue to grow here at Edison Now, the numbers are just astonishing. They're just incredible. Thanks to all of you. I decided to bring somebody on to join me that really is, first of all, he's an Edison resident. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a PTO, and he's a scientist as well, I believe.
No,
and
I am.
He's a smart individual, and he's going to bring, he's going to come at it from a different perspective than just me. So everyone, I want to introduce Chris Lugo to everybody. Chris?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I got to say, I was very excited when you approached me and asked me about this. It was flattering, to say the least. And I definitely appreciate it. And I look forward to this.
Yeah,
I really do. There's no other way to explain it. I look forward to it. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be informative. And I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of new people. And that I don't know what else to say besides that. Keep it that simple.
Well, listen, there's no better introduction to get Councilman Brescher in here, because Councilman Brescher, when I told him I was doing the podcast, told me I'd be the first billionaire.
Oh, let's see if we can get that in writing. Can we get that in writing, please?
Councilman Brescher, how are you?
I'm doing very well today.
How's your early summer treating you?
Summer is always good.
Yeah.
Weekends
You're tan.
in the
You're
summer.
tan.
Maybe red.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of fishing.
Yeah. Catching anything or no?
Definitely catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How's council life treating you for the first 6 months? You're 6 months in, right? About 6 months.
Yes. Struggling. Struggling to get things done is how I
Talk to
put
us.
it.
What's going on?
Well, we ran on a ticket and we promised the voters that we were going to do certain things. We had taxes. We had our long-term, short-term facility plan to make sure that our buildings and everything are maintained. We wanted to redo the master plan. We wanted to look at the outside vendors, to make sure that it might be cheaper to do stuff like in-house than to use outside vendors. We talked about bringing the ambulance back to Edison. JFK, about trying to get them to pay their fair share,
Right.
In Edison.
Because I spoke to Yackel a couple months ago regarding doing that. Any movement? I know the virus probably set us back, but any movement on that or no?
Right now, we're getting numbers together for that. I'd say probably by the end of June.
Okay.
Should have the numbers that I can present to the other council people.
Yeah.
Basically to show them that it
makes sense.
at a profit or break even or wherever it really is at the time.
Chris, the township, basically, to just give you a background on it, was the contract, right, for our first aid has been outsourced to JFK.
Yes,
correct?
currently.
And it would probably be cost beneficial or just beneficial to the town, the response time and the money itself to bring it back to the fire department.
Well, a lot of that's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, once you get into the response time, it's in your own house.
Yeah.
So you can monitor that. You can make that better.
Right.
And that's one of the advantages of it.
Right. Okay.
You first got onto council.
Yes.
Right as soon as you basically hit the ground running with some tax reform you wanted to bring on, if I'm not mistaken. And I give you credit because unfortunately it took you to get on council. I don't know why your colleagues, and you don't have to answer. I mean, it just, to me, it seems like your colleagues should have this should have been handled before you got here. They should have been tax reformers. Taxes are always increasing in this town, but you come on, you try to legitimately, whether or not, I don't know your plan per se, backwards and forwards, but you were trying to do something, right? I mean,
Well, that was the idea, was to form like an investigative, you have a committee of the whole, right? And we can talk about the other committee of the
we
whole.
will.
You'll
We'll
probably
get into
ask
that.
me
We'll get
about
into
that
that.
one. But
We'll get to that.
the real committee of the whole is formed by the council, and your council is here to watch over the administration and your taxes to make sure that they're reasonable. So the idea was that, you brought all the department heads in. We questioned them. we get to the bottom of where things are, because from what I see, certain people are undertaxed in the town. And if their tax rates, could be brought up to more an equal level, then everybody else's kind of go down a little bit. And just to do that overall and look over every department.
Right.
You can look at what we used to spend in engineering when we had an engineering department. Now we outsource a lot of the engineering. So you could weigh those two costs of where they are over the years. You can look at, like I looked at attorney costs. I can't even tell you in total. The one firm, I guess, had a contract for like $300,000. They billed for $6,000 because they billed by the hour.
Right.
So a lot of that you have to really get into and see, do we really need to spend this much money on attorney costs?
Right.
That you could potentially save.
No, I was gonna say that the mayor has this tax proposal coming out, or his new budget proposal. When is the budget proposal? When is his presentation?
I believe it's June 29th at Middlesex County College.
29th.
He's going to do the presentation to the public.
Right, and the tax increase, if I'm not mistaken, is 7.2. What's he looking to increase it?
Right, I said it was 8.
Yeah,
but
I mean, yeah. All right,
yes.
7 and change. Any chance that that number could come down? We could get it to. I mean, what is? Let the people know what the process is. People are out of work. They've been out of work. This virus has set a lot of people back, small businesses. I think it would be fair that our audience would probably say, "Hey, listen, a tax increase is never good, especially now." So what? I guess my question is,
What can we do?
what can we do, and also what can the people do to put pressure maybe on their elected officials as well? To really make sure that this increase does not affect our pocketbook.
Well, there are certain things that there's going to be money that the
Right.
town's going to be reimbursed for the COVID-19. That money, and I don't have the dollar amount. I haven't gotten that from the administration yet. But if you're saying that that's $1 million, 1.5 that they had to spend for the COVID,
Right.
they're going to get reimbursed from the federal government for these funds. They could bond that 1.5, and then when they get it from the feds, they could pay off the bond. So it would be
Right.
almost like a short-term loan, like a bridge loan, like
Yeah.
you'd get, if you were looking to build a house or something in that type
Right.
of neighborhood. That's one thing they could do.
Right.
The other is, I think they if we look at these, the engineering firm, we look at the attorneys, I think you can find money that you can save there. I don't know that we need to spend so much, on the attorneys. With all the attorneys, I bet you we spend $1 million, in total. I know, like I said, the one firm, I think it was last year, was $650,000. That's one firm. They got a labor attorney, then they got the tax appeal attorney. We spent a lot of money on attorneys.
I saw I saw the last Joe Bauman. Was that Joe Bauman?
Yes.
I saw him for the first time. I haven't seen him. I was getting curious. I said, Joe, where have you been? Because he was supposed to be in the oversight water committee. We'll get to that in a second. But he's gone missing. So it's good to see Joe actually back.
Right.
I don't. Do you have any questions for?
Well, actually, when we go back to the increase itself, do you know of any documentation or anything that exists, rather, that justifies and breaks down that increase of roughly 8%?
We do. We have we do have a formal budget, and we do have all the backup to it. There's a lot of it that falls outside the cap. In fact, there's a couple things that I still have to look into. I haven't gotten answers on that pertain to like capital improvements. That I don't know if we need to do those today. So you have to look at that. I'm hoping that my council colleague helps me a little bit, because I know that at the very beginning, he stood up and he said, I stand with you, and I want to bring JFK Hospital in here so that we can negotiate and bring them in to get more income from. And I'm waiting on that meeting for him to set up that
Which
meeting.
colleague is this exactly?
That was Councilman Joshi.
Joshi. Okay, so what do we need from Councilman Joshi then to maybe the people could reach out to him and
I'll tell you what,
yeah.
setting up the meeting with JFK and bringing him in, that's the start.
Okay. All right.
That would help if people gave him a call and said, listen, I know, with the COVID and everything, you probably couldn't get the people from JFK
Right.
in. But the way I see it now, a lot of things are opening up. places are opening up. So I think the time is now,
I don't see a better time.
especially with the
Right.
budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're looking
There's
not
in-
to raise the taxes.
There's
like
increases
this.
everywhere though. It's coming in town. I mean,
Oh, yes.
and Chris and I were just talking about the water before,
Oh,
but
yeah, the water's another one, right?
yeah, I mean, you're looking at the water increase. You want to explain that? What's going? Because let me start off by saying this though first, because I think there's a misconception out there. I sat on the water advisory board. Okay. There was there was Councilman Deal, Councilman Patil was on there as well, Keith, and Beerle.
Right.
And I forgot the other guy. I forgot the other individual's name. Bauman was supposed to be there. We had Maureen and Melissa Pearlstein and the mayor. And we haven't met since November. I forgot what the date was in November, but we haven't met since November. But we had the press conference as soon as the water utility. Now we upstarted the water utility in a couple months. We did. I think that was incredible work. But we handed it off to council, to the administration, with 0 rate increases. How do we get from there, from that point on, to where now the mayor wants to do a 22% increase? And we all heard you at the council meeting. You were 100% right. There's got to be a way around this. I mean, this can't be.
There is, and I'll tell you this: when the mayor told you got a 0% hike in January, right? I don't. He misinformed you.
Okay.
Okay, like if I'm telling you get a 0% in January, and then a 22% in June, really it's an 11% for the entire year. And technically it's really an 11% increase for the year, not a 22. But because he didn't tax you till June, now it's a 22. If we would have waited until November, it would have been a 30% increase or something.
Right.
But there's a lot of areas that they had in there that when you looked in the bond, they had the same thing inside the budget. Okay, they also had emergency money in the bond, so there's still another $3 million in the bond. The way they calculate their benefits, they calculated their benefits as they took the total benefit number, divided it by the employees.
Yeah.
But anybody that works, like municipal government, know that the police and the fire actually have a better insurance plan than the ASME or your DPW, your Teamsters or something in there. So your police is really worth whatever, $45,000. The others are worth like $35,000, and then they never backed out employee contributions because the employees contribute to that.
Sure. Right.
So that's less of a cost. What they gave you was that whole number, and once you deduct all of that, you're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. It looked like a cushion,
Right. Well, what's a reasonable number that should be? It should, what would be? I mean, an increase is it safe to say an increase is probably expected at some type of increase, or I mean, is it something that we could get it down to 0, or is it there's going to be some type of incremental increase that we're going to need here?
Look,
in the water?
I'll tell you that I think you can get it down to 0.
Okay.
But I think that something like a 3.4, something in that range, is reasonable. It leaves money in there in case they do have issues, and I think you want to be prepared for that. When I walk through all of those numbers, they will still have that. If you reduce it to 3.4, they still have money. They have enough money to run the entire operation, take care of any major repairs or breaks or something that happens. So it's not like the system's going to be broken.
Right. Actually, I just wanted to touch really quick about the master plan.
Yes.
So the last time I had looked, which is probably maybe about a couple of years ago, it seems as if that master plan hasn't been updated in quite some time. Is that still the case? It hasn't been updated.
No, and the master plan is the thing that, the problem with the master plan is you come up with it, it's great, right? And then what happens is, you were supposed to have 100-foot lot frontage, and your planning or zoning board, well, they grant 95. And next year they grant someone for 90 because it's only a couple feet, right? And after you go ahead 30 years, you have 100 feet and they're short 20 feet and they're getting approval, and you're building a lot more homes than you normally would. So redoing that master plan is a good thing.
But there's a requirement, though, correct, to have that master plan updated on a periodic schedule. Is that correct?
You know what? I would tell you yes. I don't know though, but I would
Okay.
say yes only because, like, same thing with all our tax appeals. You know, I complained about we had so many tax appeals years ago. You know, why didn't we reevaluate the entire town? That was supposed to have been done like, I don't know, 25 years ago or something, and they don't do it because because they say 1/3 of your taxes are going to go up on the homes, 1/3 is
Right.
going to stay the same, one's going to go lower. So they don't want to, politicians, they don't want to tick off the 1/3. What I want to do is I want to see everybody pay your fair share.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
if I'm not paying my fair share, raise my tax, I'll pay my fair share. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it should be fair to everybody. So, you know, that our whole assessment should be redone.
Right. Understood.
You talk about fair share. You look around where we are. We're actually in my backyard right now, podcasting. But I live, for folks that don't know, I live in between Costco and Topgolf. I call it ground zero for overdevelopment. And you look at what's being built. I mean, there's one now off of near the DMV, down off Kilmer. There's a massive warehouse they're going to put there. They knocked all those trees down. It's the damage is already done. A lot of the damage is done before you got here. I mean, it is what it is. When you look at when you go to if you walked around my neighborhood and you say tax increases, the neighbors are going to tell you, well, they're building all these warehouses, these rateables, all this. They're gonna get into all that, and they're gonna say, well, why are our taxes going up when you have all this, you know, commerce going on around us? Can you explain that for us? I mean, where? I guess the question is, people are going to say, well, where's all the money?
Well, actually, it's because of the size of Edison that when it looks like we have so much commerce, you know, when you look at the entire town with all the residents we have, somebody called me up from one of these news organizations, and they wanted to know that since Amazon moved in, you know, were we employing a lot more people in the town? And, you know, how much of a benefit? And if they had to move, you know, would that, like, bankrupt our town because of the tax rateables that we're getting from? And I told them no. You know, it's what we get is really a small amount overall,
Right.
you know, in the whole big picture. Because when you talk about our town, you got, what, 150, and the Board of Ed is, what, like 250?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about like a $500 million budget. Which means if you hit the Mega Millions, right, for $400 million, and they take the taxes out, you can't even pay everybody's taxes for 1 year.
Yeah,
Right.
That's a good point.
Right.
You know, it's just really how big we are.
It's I don't know, Chris. You're on the north end of town, right?
That's correct. Yes, off of Park Avenue.
Apple Park,
Yeah.
and it's the congestion down here is bad. I mean, it's just again that there's places you could blame it. To blame it on the council is inappropriate because it's planning, it's zoning, all that stuff. But as I told the mayor, and I'm up front. I thought the mayor should have, you know, went in a different direction with the planning board.
Well, let me ask you a question,
yeah.
Anthony. Let's say that you wanted to open up a warehouse.
Right.
Right? And I'm going to make up a number now, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
You have a choice. You could open up a warehouse in Piscataway
Right.
or open one up in Edison. One of the things you look at is how close you are to your infrastructure, like your highways, right?
Right.
And us in Piscataway are basically the same. We're both by the same highways. Yet Piscataway has a higher rate that their warehouses are paying,
Yeah.
like per square foot, than Edison does. So if you were looking for a place to go, you can open up a warehouse in Edison.
Yeah.
You know, we are warehouse friendly.
Well, not even that. Like, listen, I tell people this all the time, and Chris would probably agree. Is we are centrally located, Edison. We're perfect.
Absolutely.
We are perfectly located. Look at. I mean, if you think about why Amazon's here, why the new warehousing on 27, Costco, Topgolf, what's going on at Hart's, you know, on that old Ford Plan site. You have 287 extension right here. You have the Parkway. You have the Turnpike. You have everything right here for a truck driver.
Right.
Yes.
And I think it speaks volumes because all you have to do is get onto the Turnpike and drive 20 minutes south to Cranberry. You have
Yeah.
all the warehouse space in the world.
Yes.
That's right there, and it's all empty. You know,
That's a good point.
You know,
That's a good
really,
point. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but yet they're here in Edison. So yeah, I think that, you know, lends credence to what you're saying.
Yeah, and it tells you why people want to live here, why people come to Edison. The school district is one of the best in the country.
That's why I
All
moved back.
All right, so you're a former school board member. Our school board, for all that's said about it, it is. Our district is one of the best in the country, without a question. We have one of the best programs, best teachers. So people want to be here. People want to be here. Our taxes are relatively not incredibly bad, but they continue to go up. You know what I mean? And the way I look at it is, with all the building, I feel like there's no. You know, it's one that's supposed to take care of the other. That's usually the way it's supposed to be, right? Where you have all this building. You have Ford plant that's been empty for over a decade, and
the relief just doesn't seem to be there.
You know what I mean? There is no relief. That's the problem.
You know, also what you also have is the growth in the town, and the town hasn't been investing in itself over the last few years. The mayor has done some contract negotiations that like I would tend to disagree with. I understand this is a different philosophy. You know, he gave like a 15% raise. It ends up with like a 3% raise every year, but he gave him 15% in 2 years. So the problem you have with that is
he front-loaded it then.
Yes, he front-loaded it. I think the thought was they'd have people retire, and then they would have, you know, bring in younger people that are making less money. So I think that was the thought process behind it. But the problem is somebody's got to pay for that 15%
Absolutely.
in those first 2 years.
Right.
And that's where we've been over last year and this year now. You know what I mean? Where we have to come up with that money and we have to pay for that. So that hurts, especially now during the COVID time.
Yeah. I was thinking, you know, when you look at the budget itself, you know, the Board of Ed always says, you know, a lot of their is going to health benefits and stuff like that, right? To pay off. How much is that in the township? Where are we paying into pension and health benefits and stuff like that?
That I can't quote.
Okay. All right.
I don't.
But it's got to be a good. It's got to be a good amount, though. I mean, it's
I would say 110%. The problem the township has too is like the Board of Education. They sign up with an insurance carrier, like a broker. The broker gets them better rates, because what happens is they have like 2 policies or 3 policies type of thing. So when you go and you're doing 1,000 people, you know what I mean? You get a better deal than the township. Like the township's problem is, how many insurance policies do you think they have? Different insurances, health.
I'm going to guess.
Take a guess. Be wild with your guess.
I'm going to say 4.
125 or something.
125.
Right. So how do you get a deal on these different, like, insurance policies?
Unbelievable.
You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
Because what happened over the years is you might have somebody that retired 10 years ago, so they're getting insurance, and they reduced it or they changed it in the new policy. But it's expensive when you have so many. So it'd be nice if they could, you know, somehow bring that together and get everybody on the same page. But that's a monumental task, to be honest with you.
Right.
To go back, you and I met a few months ago. Feels like an eternity ago, and we spoke about this incident that happened a couple of years ago. It seems that we're going on 3 years now. 3 years with the racist flyer.
That long, huh?
3 years.
3 years.
And the councilman has been Chris. He's been listen. He's been an advocate to find out. You know, why don't we release the name of this fingerprint that Councilman Joshi has claimed that he has. We've been hearing there's been no movement. Now we get the coronavirus and everything else like that, but are we any further along in the process to finding out anything about this racist flyer? Or I mean,
I'll be honest with you. I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I got a lot of answers that aren't helpful. They have fingerprints, okay? I heard they did run them to see who they belong to. Nobody has a record of who they belong to, except for Councilman Joshi, who said, you know, I have the name, but the name's not released. But none of the attorneys involved, no one else knows. So where it is, Sam Joshi's the only one that can tell us at this point.
So yeah, go on, Chris.
Yeah, I would just like to know how. I mean, just how it's possible where only one person knows this information. But this whole situation really climbed way up the ladder, and it went to the senior ranks of New Jersey, and pretty high up there. And why do you think? Is it because of resources that they didn't spend any more effort, time, manpower on this?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what it comes down to is if this was like a murder, right, you'd get the resources for it. What happens now is that it's sitting on someone's desk, and when they have nothing to do, then they kind of look at it.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to is the resources. For them, it's not like a major crime. It's a crime here to us in Edison, but across the state, to them, they're like, wait a minute, this is an election thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. But as far as like an overall kind of like, for the lack of a better term, jurisdiction over this situation that's going on, has that been relegated entirely to Edison?
You mean just right now, it's just Edison looking at it, really. I wouldn't tell you that anybody like in the FBI or Postal Service or anyone spending any real time on it.
Yeah, well, that was the problem, though, is because what happened was there's maybe a I don't know what it is, but you're getting two different versions of it because, for instance, Councilman Joshi stated that, if I'm not mistaken, that it's under federal jurisdiction, when I don't know how that's possible, but that's and he can't release it because it's under federal jurisdiction. So, when the committee of the whole was our investigation, they were just assisting in the matter, if I'm not mistaken. So. There's a disconnect somewhere. There's something
Oh, there seems to be most certainly a disconnect here somewhere.
I'll be honest with you. Real simple thing, right? They have fingerprints.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
They got them back.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. They have to pay. They can pay and send them out and get the names, and then you can check the names for who works at the post office. Because I heard that one of the names, the guy worked at the post office. So you can eliminate those people, and then the other people you could have our police department look into.
Yeah, there's people's names that need to be cleared here because there's people. What happens is you leave it to everybody's imagination what happened, and it's not fair to certain people. I mean, certain people certain people got blamed originally,
Right. Yeah.
And people were called racist. People were called this. People were called that. When unfairly, that's the fingerprint, if they have a fingerprint and they know who it is, release it. It's for the better of our township that we don't go through another. We're going to go through another mayoral race coming up next year, which I'm sure I hear a lot of people are interested in it. But at the same time, though, what
I'm sure they're going to use it as another political. It was, for me, their investigation. I thought they really wanted to get to the bottom of it, but the way they held their meetings, the timing of everything was just always right before an election. Then it was like, aha, this guy, and aha, that guy. You know what I mean? It just They lost all credibility.
It's hard to argue against that. It's hard to argue against your point. It
like
really
before we had one of our people in the town that came forward and said Peoples for Progress was so. I went and I found out that who the person was that was doing the Peoples for Progress sending out their flyers.
Right.
I said that at a council meeting. They never called me. No one ever brought me in to ask me those questions because that didn't fit into their narrative of that, that political thing they were trying to do. And that's the saddest part about it, to be quite honest with you. Because right now, who's ever on that committee, they could send them fingerprints, they could pay, and they can get them back, and they can come up with a name. It's really not a difficult task.
Listen.
Really say to that.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's Edison deserves better. But everything our town goes through in terms of politics, we're notorious for some bad political, theater. I don't know. I don't even know the right word for it. But it's this one definitely takes the cake. And to go through another election cycle, unfortunately, without answers, is to me unacceptable. It's not. We're not putting any blame on you. I mean, listen, you weren't part of the original committee of the whole. But
Right.
I don't know. Do you have any? What else do you have to? Anything else you want to let the people of Edison know? Give any updates on anything?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm still committed to what I promised and I ran on. So the whole tax thing is something that I won't vote Councilman Joshi asked if there were any councilmen that had an issue with the sewer department and their budget. And, at the time, I didn't have time to go through it all. But at the end of the day, I look and I see that here you got a vendor, a professional vendor, an engineering firm, and they're looking at getting 20%. Now, I'll be honest with you, your architect for the library and all that, like I said, they only get 8%. So why are we paying this guy 20%? And then you hear, well, when you go to lowest bid. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you listen to the council meeting, everybody's like, oh, if you go to lowest bid, you're not going to get a qualified contractor. Everybody on that council knows one thing. Professional service, you can send out an RFP, you get the bids, and you don't have to go with the lowest bid. You can talk with different people, you can find your best qualified person, but that's not what we seem to want to do. We just want to give it to one vendor, right? So because of that, we're going to pay an additional 10%. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to bring out to the public. And if the public doesn't want their taxes going up, they're going to have to call their other councilmen and get them to vote along, those lines. Because if 4 council people vote down that budget, the administration's going to have to lower that dollar amount.
So explain that again. So we're folks, they're looking at almost an 8% tax increase, and it's important that you need 4 votes to vote it down.
4 votes will vote it down.
To vote it down. So that means, folks, you got to call or email your council representatives. You can go on the website. I'll actually link to it myself on my Facebook page. Chris, you want to do the same on yours?
Sure, absolutely.
And to put pressure. Listen, put pressure on them. Flat out. Tell your. That's the only way you can do it. There are elected representatives work for us, but Councilman Brescher is saying, hey, listen, they vote it down. Then they have to. So if it's voted down. This is after the mayor's presentation, correct?
Yes.
And the mayor's presentation is on the
29th?
The 29th at Middlesex County College.
Right.
It's open to the public.
Yes.
So the public, I would highly recommend everybody come out to Middlesex County College.
Yeah, and attend this.
There's going to be, I believe they're going to probably hold it. We talked about this offline, possibly where they held the first Suez meeting. At the college. I'm assuming that's where it's going to be.
Yeah, that I don't know, but that's actually a great venue for it.
Yeah, so it's going to be spacious for social distancing, all that stuff. But get out there, talk to you could ask questions in these in the presentation. You'll be able to actually talk to the mayor and ask the mayor a lot of questions. But then you can be able to contact your council representatives, have them vote this thing down. Once it's voted down, Councilman Brescher, what is the next process from there?
After that, from what I understand, it's a little different than the board ad, but the council gets to look through the budget, and we get to find the areas that we're unhappy with, that we would like to see reduction in, or changes made to it. Those we recommend to the mayor, and once he knows then that he could get 4 votes to get the budget passed.
You could go line by line, basically, on that. And
yes,
yeah,
you can go through each of the lines. A lot of stuff. There's still a lot of questions. I'm probably like a quarter of the way through the budget itself.
I bet. Yeah.
So that's going to take some time at the end of the day. But there are, like I said, I'm kind of leaning towards looking at the professional services and how much we've spent overall. Is that going to reduce you from 8 to 4? Absolutely not.
Nah, but
to be honest with you, I'd say that council would struggle to get to 5.
Listen, I'll say this, and this is the God honest truth. Being in, I come from the private sector, so I never was in public sector, and
Same.
What's that?
Same.
Yeah.
Same here.
So,
yeah.
and I can tell you this: I was in the water oversight committee. How fast, folks? How fast, and how quickly that. They want to spend money is incredibly. You would be shocked. I mean, Keith and I would sit. Now, Keith was in the meeting with us, and we would look at. I mean, I would write him notes in there. I'd be like, "Is this serious?" Like, I mean, even Patil. Like, we're trying to figure out a way to like. They would just want to piss money away. I hate to use that word, but that's. I mean, there was no cutting. Like we had to go. Thank God some of us were there to question a lot of what they wanted to spend money on.
Right. Oh.
I mean. I'm just telling you, it's so. Listen, they're addicted to spending. I always say this administration is addicted to spending, and it's just. I think it's the truth.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast from the private sector.
No, it is. There's no oversight. It's just like, hey, let's spend brand new this, brand new that, and we had to sit there and go, wait a second, what's wrong with the equipment that we have?
Well,
Yeah.
here's what's funny, because I come from the private sector.
Yeah.
And you see what we do there. Just look at this budget, right? They could put together the budget in January, and if they need a different appropriations later on, they can make an amendment to the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, that you can do. So you could have done one in January. The finance committee, I think they just talked about, they just met. So, they should have been working with the administration and putting that budget together, initially.
Right.
But the committee hasn't met. Like the water, when we talked about the water rates and all of that, the finance committee, in my mind, should have went through that, vetted it, and then I should have been able to ask my council colleagues, why are we having this here and we have it inside the bond? Why do we have this? How come the insurance doesn't line up? Because they might have caught all those things if they did, but they didn't review it. The administration put it out and it came to us. It's almost like it skipped a step, and then we wonder why we have a problem. There's a bunch of questions.
Right.
Anything else for the councilman?
I'm good. I'm definitely good.
Councilman, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
tonight.
thank you very much. I
Thank
definitely
you.
appreciate it.
It's we got it. We'll do it again. We'll do an update. We'll try to have the councilman back maybe after the budget sometime to go over.
Yeah. Sure. If you'd like to come back,
That's when I get beat up if I vote for the tax increase.
It's a walk in the park. It's a walk in the park, Councilman.
I know taxes do go up. I haven't
Now
seen them
listen,
actually
but
go down.
hey, I give you credit because there's no other councilman here. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I
Absolutely.
was
agree.
looking for. I know
Right.
I've been going after one specific one. I'm not going to go into that anymore. He's mad at me, so that's all right. But we'll try to get Councilman Joshi on here. I think he wants to come on anyway in a couple weeks. But we had Joyce on. We had Joyce on last couple weeks ago. But we didn't spend time talking about township issues. It was more about her and her run. And we'll bring her back on to talk about more township stuff. But Councilman Brescher, he does sit in the hot seat. I give him and even online on Facebook, he's WhatsApp. I mean, he can't help himself. He responds to everybody.
Right.
Everybody he responds to.
Well,
Yeah.
I think,
Even those that are killing him.
yes. But I think we owe that. As
No,
an
you do,
elected
yeah.
official,
Sure.
we owe it to you to give you answers.
There's no other elected official in town that does that, though.
And you know what? If you're mad, and I get it. I ran because I was upset. That's why I ran for office originally on the Board of Ed, because it seemed like they didn't want to try and save money on building and the construction.
Yeah.
So then
Right.
I said, you know what? If they don't care, that's it. I'm going to run, and we will save money.
Right.
So it's what kind of gets people involved.
You have a construction background, right? Correct. You want to let people? What's your
Yeah,
background?
I've done 30 years of building in Manhattan. Schools, hospitals, every hospital you can name of.
Gotcha.
Sony Music, IBM. All your Fortune 500. Donald Trump. Just about everybody.
Yeah.
Over a 30-year period.
Wow.
I've done work for there. In every
Very
park,
good.
Central Park, Bryant Park. It's like endless.
I used to work next to Bryant Park. I love Bryant Park.
Did you?
Yeah.
We did the bathroom.
42nd and 5th I worked.
Right.
42nd and 5th, right in Midtown.
Wow. I give you a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit for going to the city.
I hated the commute though. I hated
Yes.
hated taking the train in the morning. It was the most miserable people you'll ever like.
I can imagine.
Like not miserable, but like people were like nobody was upbeat. Like it was just like everybody was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like you know what I mean? Like
It was. It's an hour and a half commute
it was brutal.
from your home to a job.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half in the city. I mean, the train ride's only 40 minutes, but the
Right.
10 minutes waiting for the train
Right.
and the whole thing.
And it was expensive.
Hour
Tax
and
in
a
the
half.
city, getting killed with city tax. It was nuts.
Paid city tax. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I worked in Midtown for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I did that for too long now.
Yeah. Well, listen, Councilman, it's really I thank you to come on, and thank you for joining us, and we'll have you
Yeah,
back
of
on.
course.
We'll have you back on soon. And
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
all right, sir.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys, and we will have another podcast coming up in a week. We have a surprise guest next week, and
Surprise?
yeah, surprise.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
All right, surprise.
Yeah,
I'll be surprised.
You'll be surprised
I'll be
next week. So
surprised.
we'll fill everybody in as the days move on. So take care, guys.
All right. So
Appreciate
long,
it.
everybody.